What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Sports with Warbs. Today is an exciting video. I have on a guest today since the first time, since like my first two videos. Got Hot Take Hockey here. This is exciting, man. Good to have you. Nice to talk to you
Hey,
again.
Jeff, I appreciate it. What's going on, guys? I'm not in my usual setup for the people that have watched me before, but nonetheless, I'm coming on to give a little bit of my maybe some
Yes.
hot takes, but just takes in general. And
Yeah, dude.
I appreciate you having me on, Jeff.
Yeah, so basically what we'll be doing is a little would you rather. So I've basically put together like 5 questions here and kind of just things that might be contested during the season. I thought some close calls, and we're just gonna it's like obviously it's gonna be laid back. Just say would you rather, and we'll just kind of pick which one, and we'll give our reasoning. So kind of cover different spots of the league this way. So yeah, to get it started, would you rather pick Lafreniere or Stutzle for the Calder out of these two options? And then you can kind of go, and then I can give my thoughts after.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. I think this one's tough because I made my video and I said Kaprizov, and I think there's a big advantage obviously to a guy that's coming in a little bit older, coming into his still in his early 20s, but a little more experience. So yeah, like I think if you look at Stutzle, he's a guy that could potentially get more of an opportunity in Ottawa, play those top minutes. He's going to have a kind of an opportunity there to get on power play time. Lafreniere, he might get that opportunity, but right now you're kind of looking at the lineups, you're looking at training camp, and he's kind of on that third line. And like you have to obviously look at last year, like Kako, he was the second overall pick, and he was kind of sheltered. Like he didn't have the best year. He was on the third line, and we didn't really get to see a lot from him. So I mean, part of me wants to go in the direction of like opportunity and guy that has the potential, but I think I have to go with what I've seen with Lafreniere. So I would go. I mean, if we're saying would you rather and what I want to see this year, Lafreniere. I do think Lafreniere is a different breed, and no offense to Kako, I think Kako is going to be a great player, but Lafreniere for
Mhm.
me is Lafreniere, and I do think whether he starts on the third line or not, I think he's going to create opportunity for himself and kind of jump up the depth chart by the end. So I think Stutzle, if he makes the team, which is expected, he'll get an opportunity in the top 6. But I do think I'll take Lafreniere.
Maybe in New York, you're not getting the same looks as you are in Ottawa. Everyone knows where Ottawa is at. It's kind of like they want young guys in, they want young guys making an impact. So he'll definitely have that chance. I go for Lafreniere as well. I mean, like to be honest, we obviously haven't seen a lot of either guy. The only thing, like last year World Juniors, we saw Lafreniere, and that was a big kind of telltale sign of how good he was, how much far ahead of his competition he was that year. It solidified him as the number one. But like you said, the Rangers, decent team. They should kind of be fighting for a spot. They might not give him the same opportunities, but yeah. So I think we'll go with going there. And also the Stutzle train is running hot right now after that World Juniors. I know he had a good tournament for Germany there, but so moving on, would you rather be playing in the East Division or the Central Division? So kind of just which one do you think you have a chance to make the playoffs in out of those two?
Yeah, you know what? I think on the surface, I think the East one is the toughest. Like I think the East Division is definitely the toughest. But I think you make a good point. We've talked about it. I think the Central Division has the potential of like great teams stepping up. Like you only have, in my opinion, the two weak teams in Chicago and Detroit. So it's just like it's a matter of like which team are we getting from Florida? Which team are we getting from Nashville? Dallas with their injury concerns. Like which Dallas team are we getting? The Dallas team
Carolina.
that we saw, and then yeah, Carolina. I'm high on Carolina. So I think the Central Division is definitely underrated, but like the East Division for me is just it's too tough. There's not even like that much room for error there. Like you have New Jersey, that's like pretty weak in my opinion, but like you never know. And then Buffalo is like they're like a wild card and all that because they have like the top end talent now, and it's like if Allmark can step up and the defense keeps progressing, then like maybe they're an odd team to like make it through. But yeah, like the Rangers, Islanders, I think the Battle of New York, like that's going to be a big thing this year, and like
Mm-hmm.
both going to be battling for a spot. And then Pittsburgh, Washington, don't count those two teams out. And then you talk about Philly, like I think Philly is definitely going to make noise in that division. And Boston, sorry, I forgot
Yeah,
about Boston.
Boston.
So
Yeah,
Boston's in
they're a
there as
given.
well,
Yeah, like they're
and like
gonna.
they should make it. Like obviously Pasternak will be out for probably a month at least, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like that's what I'm saying. So it's like there's not much room for error there. So I guess to your question, yeah, like if I wanted to be in a division, if I'm a team just there, like I would want to be in the Central Division. You have an opportunity to make it. I think The only locked up team probably is Tampa, but I made in my video, like I made the take that I think Carolina's pretty locked up. Like
Yeah.
Mrazek would have to be like absolutely horrendous for them to like get screwed out of that division. They have a very complete offense. Their top line, like I saw it like last year in the playoffs, Svechnikov, Teravainen, and Aho, like they're the next big line in the league that we're going to see for the next few years. And then their defense is like one of the best, like if not the best in the league, right?
Yeah.
So, outside of that, then it's just like it comes down to what kind of Columbus, what kind of Dallas, what kind of Nashville, what kind of Florida are we getting. And I would say it's those four teams battling for the last two spots, in my opinion.
There's still like opportunity because I mean, in the East, I'm pretty much Boston, Philly, and that like are locked in for two of the spots. And then one of those, the third spot will probably go to Pittsburgh or the Capitals. And then that kind of leaves the Islanders, Rangers, and then like you said, the Sabres are kind of like a wild card. They're kind of like the Ottawa of this division where they want their young guys to succeed. No one really expects them to make it, but we might be surprised by how good they do.
Now they have. I mean, they have a duo. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of just throwing Hull to the side. And that's kind of where I get a little pissed off. It's like, you know what, Hull, you call him a curse, call him what you want. And if you want to like say he hasn't performed in big, like he's going to be playing beside Jack Eichel. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like name a player that Taylor Hall has played beside that's even close to Jack Eichel.
Well, I mean, he did play
at the start.
He did play with McDavid
at the start,
yeah.
yes. But since he's been the Taylor Hall, that like what we've seen in the last since the heart, like he hasn't. Yeah, at the very start, he was getting time with McDavid and Draisaitl, but like the Oilers had no patience. Sorry, Jeff, but
I know.
Like in the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, we haven't seen Hall with a premier player. So you know what? I think we have to wait. And Eichel is like the complete package. So I want to see those two guys together. And we've seen, I mean, cough, cough, cough. Look at what the Oilers have done with very little depth over the last 2 years. Yes, they missed the playoffs, but last year with a duo, I'm not saying Eichel and Hall are close to that level, but sometimes a duo can carry you to a certain extent.
Good stuff. So, yeah, I think we can both probably pick Central here. That East Division will be an interesting one to watch. But there's also, like I said, that fourth spot's kind of up for grabs, I think. Would you rather pick the Lightning or the Avalanche to win the Cup? These are kind of the two betting favorites in Vegas. So this is kind of just what you think of the top contenders.
Yeah, I think, it's probably an easy answer for me just based on the takes I've made and what I've talked about. But I'm going to go Avalanche more because I think the only doubt for me that I have in them is their goaltending. And I know that's like a big doubt. Like I've always said, like you need to have the goaltending to win. But I think one of two things are going to happen for the Avalanche. They, in their mind, look at this year as like their winning year. So either Grubauer steps up, which I think is a real possibility. I think Grubauer is a good goalie. Is he a premier goalie? No. But he's a good goalie. And the second option on that list is just to literally acquire a guy. Like there's like, I would say like 4 or 5 guys that they could go out if they really wanted to and make that kind of trade. Like, I'm not saying this would be a fit, but like even Johnny Quick's a guy in LA that like, I feel like he's got the experience and he showed last year at times that he's still a really good goalie.
Yeah. Obviously he's still got it left in the tank.
He's still got a little bit left in the tank. So it's like not the best contract, but there's trades that can be made. Like I'm just throwing out one example, but there's other guys. So I'm just thinking with the Avalanche, in my opinion, I mean, especially with Byram, if coming to the picture, like they have the best defense prospect system like I've ever, like not ever seen, but like I've seen in a while. Like they have by far the best up and coming defense, and they already have a top 10 defense currently, or top 15 defense. So I think that forward group is so deep, and like obviously when you have a top line of Landeskog, McKinnon, and Rantanen, and then you bring in Brandon Saad in the picture. Kadri's been such a great fit. I gotta go Avalanche, and like we don't know. Like at least I don't think Kucherov would be back, even if they made a Stanley Cup final, because he's done for the year. I don't know the exact timetable, but done for the year seems like done for the year. And like we don't know what Stamkos we're getting back as well. There's obviously huge question marks around Tampa. I still think they're going to be a dominant team, but I'll go Colorado.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, last year during the first season of the Hot Take Hockey podcast, I said the Avalanche from like our first show, and I stuck with them, and I'm going to go with them here too. Like I said, I made a video, like when I talked to them in the odds video, they've only really gotten better. The Lightning seems to have regressed a little bit, but you can never count them out. They still, obviously, Stamkos can turn it on and things can change, but I think we're pretty much on the same page there. Would you rather pick the Canucks or the Flames for that fourth North Division playoff spot? Because it's kind of based off who you also think is going to make it. In my mind, I see
Yeah,
the Leafs, Oilers making it into the top four, and then I could see like the third spot's kind of up in the air, but it could be like obviously Winnipeg, Canucks, Flames, or
Montreal.
the Habs. So yeah, I don't know. Or the Canucks and Flames, who do you think would make the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, based on what I've kind of been saying, like I'll probably go Flames here, but man, it's so close. Like in my standing predictions, I have Flames at 4 and Canucks at 5, and so that kind of goes into your question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go Flames just based on what I see. Like this is like a year like that we've never gotten in the NHL. I mean, we said the same thing with the bubble, but like this is an actual season that we're going into during the pandemic, and I think there's a lot of stuff that like we don't know. Like we don't know what kind of Markstrom we're getting in Calgary. Like I think that's what it's honestly going to come down to with Calgary. Like either making it or breaking it is like literally their goaltending, and that's kind of been like every year. So are we getting the Jacob Markstrom, the guy that could be considered like Vesna last year when he wasn't injured, or like a top 5 goalie in the league? Or are we getting like a Markstrom before he came to Vancouver or when he struggled? Like obviously I think he's coming to his own and like matured as a goalie and now is in his prime. So I think it's just coming down to health. Is he healthy? So if it's a healthy Jacob Markstrom, I'm going Calgary. I think they just have the more complete team. If I'm going top 6 forwards, like Vancouver's the more attractive option for me. But like I think that's more just like Calgary just sometimes doesn't click. Like on paper,
Yeah.
they have Goudreau, Monahan, Lindholm, and Kachuk. Like that's a pretty good top 4. And like if I look at Vancouver, is it that far off? Like Pedersen,
Yes,
Horvat,
sir.
Besser, and Miller. So it's like I look at Calgary's like that's not too far off. Like obviously
Yeah.
Pedersen's the better star out of, but like Kachuk and Goudreau are no
No, no
like it's
slouches.
yeah exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you think, but
I'm gonna just to go against the grain. I guess I'll go with Canucks, and this isn't because I'm an Oilers fan. I think the Flames made a smart move in acquiring Markstrom. The Oilers had a bid in for him when he went to the Flames. I don't know, like he hasn't exactly been a consistent great goalie like over the years. So it is kind of a risk they're taking. If it works out, they've got a pretty complete team, but if it doesn't, they could fall. And the thing about Vancouver that is like you said, you just named off their top 4, which is good and young and probably only getting better. Plus, they obviously had lost Tanev in the back, but then they brought in Schmidt as like a last minute, a little play on Vegas there. They were one of the teams to benefit from Vegas putting themselves in cap trouble. And then they still got Thatcher Demko, who they seem pretty confident in, enough to not even offer really Markstrom a contract. And then they brought in Holtby, who's an established cup winner, to split games, because in the NHL, we kind of know that goalies don't exactly play like 65 games anymore. It kind of goes a little more even these days, especially with all the games that will be played in such a short time. So I still think the Canucks are good. They did Canada well last year in the
yeah.
playing round. I mean,
I
they
mean,
made a
yeah,
run, so it's
they
like
were the farthest team to make it, and that's kind of what I've been saying to people is like this Canadian division. Like, I don't think you like. I'm not going to give anyone a hard time for like predicting this division wrong. For me, I predicted like, for example, like Canucks 5, and I would say, and I've been saying, I would not be surprised if the Canucks made the playoffs. And like that's not me disrespecting the Canucks. That's just me looking at the teams and be like, man, this is the
yeah,
closest you're going to get with any of
I
these
know,
divisions. Like
dude.
1
It's
through 6 is like it's going to be so crazy.
all right. So then the final question is: would you rather have great goaltending, like a team like the Habs, or would you rather have great forwards going into this shortened season? What do you think is going to be kind of the X factor that'll make the difference playing 56 games opposed to the 82?
Yeah, I think especially in the Canadian division, I think this is like a pretty important aspect to look at. I think with like the Habs, um, it's going to be interesting because like you have Carey Price, and that like it depends on what kind of Carey Price we get. It's 56 games, so like the big concern around like Carey Price and the Montreal Canadiens and the goaltending is like, so you see Carey Price like playing 65 to 70 games, and that's become an issue for the Habs. So now you're looking at a 56 game season. And it's like, okay, can Carey Price play 40 of those games? But then you also have to consider like, okay, the back to backs, like these consecutive games. So based on like what I see in this division, if we're talking about the Canadian division, for example, it's like, okay, you have your great offenses like the Leafs and Jets. I'd probably go goaltending as long as like you have like a decent offense. Like I would say you have to have like one star and then something around that. So then I kind of compare it to like the Canucks offense. If you can have like somewhat of like a Canucks offense along with a strong goaltending, so like that this is so like circumstantial. Like it's a
Right.
hard question to answer because like you have to think about the other factors. But like in terms of the important aspect, especially in this kind of season and like going into the playoffs, I've always said you have to have a great goaltending. So like if Carey Price or like for example Hellebuck was with like a great tandem, I think you have to go with that star goalie. If you have that star goalie and he's playing to that star goalie potential, plus a great backup, and we've seen what great goalies can do in the playoffs and step up, I think you have to go with that. Obviously, like it's always great to have the clutch scorers, but like even with the Leafs, you see it against the Blue Jackets, you can have great scorers but lose a game 2 or 3-0, and it doesn't matter. So I think you have to have the goaltending and a goaltender making a huge save and being consistent in the playoffs can really drive momentum and kind of save you in a game. So that kind of answers that question.
Yeah. And in the Canadian division, like Hellebuck's obviously stud, Price is a stud, but like the Oilers don't have great goaltending. Like the Canucks goaltending is questionable, like we talked about, but could be good. The Flames have unreliable. So it's like if you have that piece, it could be a huge advantage for you, especially in a division that doesn't exactly have the best attendees. So
look at Montreal and look at Edmonton in those playing rounds. Edmonton playing a Chicago team and the goaltending defense let them down. It didn't matter how great of an offense or top six they had. But then you look at the Habs who had a solid defense and Carey Price who stepped up, and you win against Pittsburgh and actually give Philly a tough time, even though they didn't play the best. But the point is like, especially now in a shortened season and a lot of back-to-backs consecutive games, and then you're playing against your Canadian rivals up until up through the second round is like, you need the goalie. You need the clutch goalie. And I honestly, I looked through this division and it's like a lot of the teams have good goalies, except for a couple teams. Sorry, Jeff.
Dude, but who are the teams that have great goalies? Like just really the Jets and the Habs.
Well, the Jets and the Habs, but like if you look at the Flames, Canucks, and Leafs, they all have potential for one of the goalies to step up, right? I mean, Freddie, and then with the Canucks, they have two guys that have potential to step up. And then with the Flames, like they even have Riddick as a backup, but like Markstrom's gonna like hopefully step up for them. But yeah, like outside of that, it's like Sens and Oilers, what are you doing?
Have faith. Yeah. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Sure, we'll be talking more as the season goes on, and we'll be getting into it. But a little preview for you guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.
Thanks for having me. Peace.